friends, how are you all? This is Atisham and welcome to Lost in Spain. Today I am lost in Teruel. Teruel is a province around 300 kilometers away from Madrid. It's between Madrid and Barcelona, but it's a town that is almost unknown. There is a saying in Spanish, Teruel también existe. That means Teruel does exist. People, they haven't visited this town, this place. They don't know what is here. And actually it's a very beautiful town because of the beautiful Mudéjar architecture or Mudéjar. It's been declared World Heritage. So today I'm in Teruel.
My motorcycle ride from my last stop, Albarracin, to Teruel was hardly an hour. And on the way, I passed by the airport of Teruel. The airport of Teruel, I think there is no commercial flight from here, but during COVID time, all this airport was used as a parking lot for all the planes that were not actually flying. So then I reached Teruel, and Teruel is located on the banks of a river known as Turia River. As I arrived in Teruel, I passed under the aqueduct of Teruel. This aqueduct is from 16th century. I'm sure you have heard about the more famous aqueduct of Spain that is in the city of Segovia. So first thing I did arriving in Teruel was to find my hotel and leave my motorbike next to the hotel because Teruel is all historical quarter, and like all the other cities, it's really difficult here to go and move around with your motorcycle or vehicle. So it was like a 5 minutes walk from the hotel, and I went walking to the historical quarter. Teruel is actually famous for its Mudéjar architecture. In Spanish, we say Mudéjar. It's an architecture that was made by the Muslim artisans who lived here many centuries back. The central square of the town of Teruel is a square known as Plaza del Torico. A toro is a bull in Spanish. A torico means a small bull, a mini bull. So right in the center of the square there is a column, and on top of the column we have this figure, a sculpture of a small bull. And it has a beautiful fountain on the lower part. This bull sculpture, a few months back, I remember it fell off, and it was a big shock for the people, and it was in news all around the country. So around the square you have beautiful tapas joints, restaurants, cafeterias. You can relax there for a while. And after visiting the square, I came to the western part of the city to visit the Escalinatas. Escalinata is like a big staircase that was made in the early 20th century to connect the lower part of the city with the higher part of the city and give access to the train station. It is a beautiful monument of neo-Mudéjar architecture, and in the central part you have a sculpture dedicated to the famous lovers of Teruel. So Teruel is also famous because of an old legend about two lovers, Diego and Isabel, a very, we can say, tragic love story that ended up in a tragedy. So I'll talk about them because later I'm going to visit the mausoleum that is actually dedicated to these lovers. So Teruel is a city with a romantic twist because of the story of these lovers. After enjoying a beautiful sunset from the Escalinata staircase, I went back walking to the hotel. I passed in front of the Jal Archive, which is a new Mudéjar style building of the city. And again, I passed through the aqueduct. Now this time I was approaching the aqueduct from the upper part of the city. Teruel is actually a little town, not very much populated, only around 35,000 people, but I really liked it. The weather was good. It was a bit on the colder side, and I really like cold weather. And after going and sleeping in the hotel, next morning I came up early to the mausoleum of the lovers, El Mausoleo de los Amantes. It opened at 10 o'clock, and so I was right there during the opening time. Right in front of the mausoleum, you have this sculpture of the beautiful couple. They are Isabel and Diego, a legendary love story from 13th century about this couple who were very much in love. Diego wanted to marry Isabel, but Isabel's father didn't allow them to marry as Diego was not rich enough. So Diego asked Isabel's father just to give him 5 years, and he will go and try his luck, work hard, and come back when he thinks he'll be worthy enough. There are actually beautiful sculptures of Diego and Isabel, and their hands are put together, but they are not touching each other because Diego and Isabel could never get united. As the legend goes, As there was no news of Diego, Isabel's family arranged her marriage with another rich noble guy from Teruel. But just like Hollywood movies, Diego came back right before the wedding and he saw all the celebration going on in the city of Teruel. Then he learned that it was the wedding of her lover Isabel. He was really shocked and he went to meet Isabel and asked her to at least give him one last kiss. But Isabel refused, saying that now she's going to be married to a different man and she cannot kiss him. This caused a great shock and led to the death of Diego. The next day, when Diego's funeral was being organized by his family, all the people were gathered around, and there was a lady with a veil who approached Diego's dead body, leaned upon him, and gave him a kiss on his cheek. And she also fell over him, and she died. Then people realized that this lady was actually Isabel, who had come to give one last kiss to her lover. So they were united upon their death. So this whole incident moved the town so much that they both were buried together in the church known as San Pedro. And this is the church where the mausoleum is located. These two figures, the sculptures that you see, are really sarcophagus, where underneath you have some hollow space in which they still keep the mummies, the bodies of Diego and Isabel. So there has been a lot of research over these figures. Some people say it's like a legend or a myth, but having found the bodies and some records in the church has given a lot of credibility to this story of the lovers of Teruel. And even there have been some movies and TV programs and books and plays based on the love story of Isabel and Diego. On one side of the church, there is actually a whole exposition that tells you the story of these lovers, how they were found, the documents related to their history, and then they were kept in like a wooden canopy on one side in a small temple, and how they were finally brought back to this church. As we go and visit different cities, we visit different kinds of monuments like churches, palaces, cathedrals. But this monument, I really found it special because it's something dedicated to some lovers. The main chapel of San Pedro Church is a beautiful example of 14th century Mudéjar architecture. Mudéjar architecture is the architecture that is totally inspired by the Muslim designs. As Muslim people, they make a lot of use of floral patterns and symmetrical and geometrical designs. So you will see all these kind of patterns repeated on the walls and different areas of the church. So before heading back to the hotel and check out to go to Valderobres, my next destination, I decided to pass by the Cathedral of Teruel. The Cathedral of Teruel, built from 12th to 16th century, is one of the best example of Mudéjar architecture in any of the cathedrals of Spain. You can see beautiful Mudéjar architecture on the outside. As you can see the main entrance, you see the beautiful arches on top that might resemble some kind of Islamic architecture from different Arabic countries. In the tourism office nearby, you can see a full wooden model which shows the architecture of the cathedral. So to go inside the cathedral, you need to buy a ticket that costs €6, and there are guided visits also that happened at certain times of the day. Since I was on a short schedule, I decided to do the tour myself. I bought the ticket and went inside the cathedral. And as I said before, all the interior also is really beautifully decorated with all these Mudéjar style carvings. Especially the ceiling of the cathedral is beautifully carved with all these wooden motifs that is very much similar to a ceiling of a synagogue that is in the town of Toledo. You can see I put a small video on one side, and you can see how both the ceilings, they look almost similar.
So friend, this is my one night stay in Teruel, the city of the lovers. Now I'm going to the region called Matarrania with my motorcycle. So let's go to Matarrania. Okay friends, so we are ready to go to Matarrania.
So after visiting Teruel, I headed to my next destination, that was little town of Valderobres in the region of Matarrania. It was more towards northeast area near Barcelona. It was around 170 kilometers all through the mountainous area, and as always I go stopping and taking pictures and enjoying the scenery. But as soon as I reached Valderobres, my motorcycle broke down. So please stay tuned. I'll show you all this in my next video. Till then, hasta luego.